Only one? Oh, she's got it.
Yeah. So if you would leave this up here for her.
Sorry.
Yeah. Talk from a walk. It's 11 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can be a good steward of your time. Welcome. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Lisa. I'm with the Indiana Public Retirement System, and I want to welcome you to the Retirement Rundown. We are here to provide you with tools and strategies and information to help you create a winning game plan for your retirement so that you can meet your retirement dreams. So we have a host of different presentations for you today. And all of this is in celebration of National Retirement Security Month. So throughout the month, you'll be receiving information from InPRS as well as nationwide about different resources that you can use in order to plan your retirement dreams. So today we have got a couple of different presentations, as I mentioned. We have InPRS here with Jeremy. He's going to share with you understanding your retirement plan, as well as information about the retiree medical benefits plan that is available to you as a state employee. My schedule is a little bit off. We are not going to hear from Hoosier START 457 plan at 12. We're actually going to hear from the healthcare retirement savings that Dave from Nationwide is going to talk about. Then we'll talk about Hoosier START and your 457 plan that's available for you as state employees. Then we're going to wrap it up with Nationwide Financial Planning Services, and Mark is going to tell you about some opportunities that are available to you, again, as a state employee. So again, I welcome all of you. We'll also address the questions that were provided to us when you registered. We'll address those while we're here in the session. And then those that we don't address or that you have questions of you here in the audience, feel free to step outside to our tables that we have out front. Myself and Christine are here from InPRS to answer your questions. Jeremy and Natalie and Dimitri are here as well. And then Nationwide also has their team of representatives here, again, to answer any questions that you may have about all of this retirement stuff. So again, welcome. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, who is going to talk to you about your InPRS retirement plan and the retiree medical benefits plan. Here you go, Jeremy.
Welcome, everybody. Be proud of yourself for taking the time to come and learn more about your retirement benefits. When I'm not presenting, I work one-on-one with folks in retirement counseling sessions, and sometimes it happens that I'm talking to someone about their benefits for the first time. And so feel good about coming to learn some about your PERF benefits. So a lot of people call us different things. So, but you probably know us as PERF, okay? But we are actually the Indiana Public Retirement System. That's the name of our quasi-state agency. And we oversee PERF and TURF, several different, you'll see here in a second, the different retirement funds that we oversee. I'd like to point out a few things about this page and why they might even be important to you, because it looks like just sometimes a little bit of random information, but we manage $42.4 billion in assets. That number is as of June 30 of 2020. Why does that matter to you? That matters because if you're in PERF hybrid and you go to sign up for your pension's going to come out of that big bucket of money. Okay, so that is important. We are among the largest 100 pension funds in the U.S. Issue payments to 160,000 individuals, which $3 billion annually. TURF. So again, we oversee PERF and TURF. TURF was founded in 1921 and PERF in 1945. So like I said, you probably know us for your retirement plan, but we oversee teachers' retirement, 1977 fund, which is police and fire, judges, state excise. State of Indiana is our largest employer, but we also have many cities and counties, school corporations that are also employers that offer our plans. We have 1,300 plus public employers right now, and a total of 517,000 in membership. Here's what we're going to cover today in the presentation. The first is an overview of your benefits. So I want you to understand the different components of your retirement benefits. Then I want you to understand what you can do with it. So kind of what options you're going to have at the time of retirement. And then how do you receive it? I call that more the logistical side of like, when do you sign up and how do you go about that? I first want to talk about folks that are in the My Choice plan. So State of Indiana offers a choice to its employees. You can be in the PERF My Choice Retirement Savings Plan or the PERF Hybrid Plan. The My Choice, it is a defined contribution plan only. That means it does not have the pension component. Just by default, a pension ends up getting talked a lot about in the presentation just because it's detail, there's a lot of details and parts to it. So, but My Choice plan does not have the pension component, okay? What it does have are 2 sets of contributions into the employee's defined contribution account. Excuse me. The fixed contribution, that's a 3% mandatory contribution. The state of Indiana makes that on your behalf. That money always belongs to you. You're always 100% fully vested in that balance of your account. There are no loan or hardship withdrawals available from that, from your defined contribution account. You can make voluntary contributions on a post-tax basis if you want, up to 10% of your salary. The second part of your My Choice plan is a variable rate contribution. Currently, it's at 3.7%. This is funded by your employer, so that contribution is made by your employer. And if you were to separate, the amount you receive would be based on years of participation. So if you were to leave after 1 year, you would be eligible for 20% of that part of your balance. After 2 years, 40%, so on and so forth, being fully vested at 5 years. I'm going to cover this part. I have 1 hour, and if anybody that knows me knows I like to talk, and they know I love my job, so that's going to be kind of hard. So what I'm about to talk about is for everybody, okay? Whether you're in PERF Hybrid or the My Choice plan, and that is that you control how the money in your defined contribution account is invested, okay? In fact, you are the only person that can change how the money in your account is invested. So depending on when you started, if you've never done anything, you're going to be defaulted to something. If you've been here for years and years, your money is probably in the stable value fund. If you are a more recent hire, your money is likely in a target date fund where we pick the fund close to when you're going to be 65. So that's what I'm going to talk about first, the target date funds. We call this Do It For Me. This is a way for you to diversify your investments, yet be more aggressive earlier in your career, meaning more of your money will be invested in the stock market where the potential for earnings is higher. However, especially over the last few years, we've seen the volatility that can happen with the stock market. And so earlier in your career, you should be able to weather those storms. So more of your money early on is invested in those, I call them the stock market funds. So that's the large cap equity, small mid cap equity, and international equity, those last 3. Okay. Then as time marches on, if your money is in that target date fund, it is automatically changed. The portion of your money that is invested more aggressively versus more conservatively changes over time. So as you get close to that target date, your money is primarily in conservative options, but there is still a good portion in the stock market. So it's a great way to diversify your money and really not have to watch the stock market every day. And so that's target date funds. The other options we have are, if you want to invest your money yourself, are a money market fund, the stable value fund, which I already referenced. By the way, people that were in the guaranteed fund back in the day, so if you've been here a while, you remember those days. And if you've never changed where your money was invested, it's in the stable value now, okay? The fixed income fund, inflation-linked fixed income fund, okay? Those top four would be considered less risky, more conservative. They see less fluctuations when the market is volatile. And in turn, over time, the rate of return on average is simply lower, because that's kind of the trade-off with not seeing much volatility. The last three options, the large cap equity fund, small mid cap equity fund, and international equity fund, those funds are, they have your money invested directly in the stock market. Large cap equity fund, for example, is invested in an S&P 500 index fund. So all the companies in the S&P 500, that's what your money's invested in. So you will see, if your money's there, you will see some fluctuations that sometimes look disheartening. I like to remind folks, when you're still working, you still have more, you're buying shares every pay period, right? So one of the things about the volatility of the market is, I know your balance may go down and you might be tempted to pull it all out of there and go save it, put it in one of the more conservative to save your balance. But one of the other things you're doing is you're buying more shares in the fund at a cheaper price. So as the rebound happens, the hope is your balance that much more quickly rebounds. So keep those types of things in mind. But everybody here still has a level of risk they're willing to take with that money. So that is what is an important component to how you invest your money, period. If you look on our website, you'll see that we have an investment 101 section where you can take a quiz. If you don't know how you don't know how much risk you're willing to take with that money, we have a quiz that would help you kind of identify that. It'll look at things like time horizon and different things like that. So that could be a good place to go to start. You can change the allocation of your balance in 1% increments. And you do it yourself in your account at myimpressretirement.org. You can make changes every day. I don't necessarily encourage you to look at this every day. It can be kind of just like any financial advisor would tell you, it's really hard to watch the stock market every day and see money just kind of, but you can. And any change you make by 4 p.m. We'll post the next business day for the next business day. After 4 p.m., it'll be the following business day. When you want to manage your investments, this is the options that you have, okay? So you can choose to change any future investment. So any new money coming into your account from this day forward, you can choose to invest that differently than the money that's in there now. Okay, so if you're fine with the balance being invested where it is now, but you want to, moving forward, do something different, that's how you do that. The one-time account rebalance and the automatic account rebalancing. You can establish like to have a certain percentage in this large cap equity and part of it in the stable value. And but those percentages can get off over time. It's a matter of decimal spaces at the end of the day. So these two options allow you to recalibrate back to the percentage you wanted. And then the fund-to-fund transfers, the last one, that's simply moving money out of this account or out of this fund into this fund, or this and this and this fund, or So that allows you to move money directly from fund to fund altogether. If you're in the My Choice plan or the perf hybrid, you are going to get quarterly statements for your investments in your defined contribution account. Okay. It will show a beginning balance, the number of contributions made, what you earned based on investments. It will also show the administration fee. I don't know that it's on this page, but you'll look, there's an administration fee for Voya to manage these accounts. It's $3.75 a month. So this is a good way to gauge how your investments are doing. So if you're not online a lot, at least, make sure you're getting your quarterly statements and checking those out. If you're not getting your quarterly statements either by mail or email, we don't have a good address for you. Okay. So, sorry, I'm not used to having a microphone. Your address is something that your employer is not going to keep updated with us. Okay, so that'll be on your responsibility to go in there and make sure it's kept updated. So what options do you have with your defined contribution account at the time of retirement? I want to reiterate, this is for not only those in My Choice, but those in the perf hybrid plan. Okay. So the first thing is you don't have to do anything. You can defer, leave that money where it is. So defer a decision on it. If you do that, that money remains invested. How you determine it, you can manage the account just as you can today. Okay. Nothing changes about how you manage that account. And then later in retirement, you're going to have all the options I'm about to go through. Okay. So you don't really give up anything. If you defer and you're not doing anything with those funds at the age of 73, the IRS is going to require you to start taking some of that money out. It's called a required minimum distribution. We process that for you. So we will send you a one-time a year payment to meet that required minimum distribution if you're not taking enough out of your account yourself. So, and some people, that's just simply how they get the money out. They leave this as kind of an emergency backup fund, and they just wait for the RMD to kick in. You can also do a direct rollover. A rollover is transferring the money out of this defined contribution account into another qualified retirement account. That is a tax-free event. And so a lot of people take comfort in like consolidating all their money in one spot, or you may be working with someone at like a Edward Jones or Charles Schwab. And you want to get your money with them, and that's how you do it, a rollover. Lump sum distribution. This is just if you want the cash. You can do that. Any pre-tax balance, we're required to withhold 20% as a withholding for federal income tax. Okay, so it'll be a credit at tax time. So just like now, if you over withhold, you get money back. If you under withhold, you owe. All right. Keep in mind, state and local, you're looking at 5 to 5.5%, depending on what county you live in. So keep that in mind because you're going to owe that too on a lump sum distribution. The last thing I'm going to say about lump sum distribution, keep in mind how much you take out, and you might want to bump that up against your other income that year and look at the IRS tax brackets. Okay, because sometimes people come back to me and they say, man, we withheld 20%. I thought that would be enough, but I got a bill to pay X amount of dollars to the IRS, and it's likely taking that lump sum out put that person into a new tax bracket. So they ended up owing more in taxes on all their income that year. So that's an important component to keep in mind. Fourth option is you can purchase an annuity with MetLife. An annuity looks a lot like a pension. It's guaranteed monthly income for the rest of your life. We've partnered with MetLife to offer those, and it is a purchase. So that's one thing I like to clarify. If you need you purchase an annuity with all your money, and then you need $5,000 some point in retirement to replace a furnace, you can't go to MetLife and ask for it. Okay, they're not holding it in an account for you there. We have different options for an annuity purchase. Okay, with and without cash refund. Super important terms to understand. I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but I think broadly what I would say about an annuity, there's an entire annuity market out there. Okay. A lot of the larger insurance companies offer annuities. Just make sure you understand the terms of any annuity you buy. If there's even one component of it you feel like, I don't really kind of understand, ask the embarrassing questions about it because they're important. Okay. And oftentimes it's irrevocable decision. So you're really going to want to make sure you understand the terms. The fifth option, you can set up a systematic withdrawal. This is where you can say, okay, I have X amount of dollars in my defined contribution account. And I want over the next 10 years, 11, however many years you want, I want you to send me a payment out of that account. The frequency can be monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual. Okay. And so you would get that periodic income. Okay. And pay taxes on it as it becomes income to you. So this is a way some folks, you know, kind of slow down taking that money out so that they don't throw themselves into maybe a different tax bracket. But this option's it can look a lot like an annuity. A lot of people set them up monthly. An important thing, an annuity is guaranteed for life. A systematic withdrawal, at the end of the period you choose, your account balance is going to be zero. What it's structured to do. So you live 35 years in retirement and you set this up for 20 years, you're going to go 15 years without having that systematic withdrawal. It's also flexible in the sense that if you need to stop it, take $5,000 out to replace a furnace, you can do that. Then restart it if you want, okay? It also allows you the money that's still in the account gets to, you know, it stays invested. You still manage how it's invested. And so you get to experience any earned income on that money. The last option, you can split that balance up and do different things with it. So if you want to accomplish a couple different things, pay off some debt, you can take a lump sum out and then start an annuity with the rest, you can do that. Back in 2021, there was a change. So January 1 of 2021, a law was enacted that allows you to take an in-service distribution if you meet certain eligibility rules of your defined contribution money. So those in the My Choice plan, if you're 62 or older with 5 or more years of service, you're able to, without separating employment, take a distribution out of your defined contribution account, okay? We do, again, want to just remind you, this money was earmarked for retirement. So I think this has been a good thing. It's helped some people probably weather some of the kind of turbulent financial times we've seen recently. But we also like to remind you, make sure that it's, you know, you still are being smart about how much you're taking out and maybe leaving yourself some for retirement. So that's the My Choice plan. We started offering the My Choice plan in 2013, by the way. So sorry, I'm gonna have to get a drink. 2013, and as a choice, anybody that was hired prior to that and has not had a separation of employment, you're in the perf hybrid plan. You never went in to make a choice, you defaulted to the perf hybrid plan, okay? So we call it hybrid because it's a 2-part plan. The first part is a pension. It's technically a defined benefit. I call it a pension because I feel like 8 billion other people on earth call it a pension, except our little office likes to call it a defined benefit. So I'm going to call it a pension. And then the defined contribution account is the second component of your perf hybrid plan. So we're going to talk about the pension first. Your pension, once you start it, is a lifetime benefit to you. Okay. I'm asked often, I still get surprised sometimes, that people want clarification of lifetime. And so I have to tell them literally like, okay, once you start your pension, we're going to force you to take it. We're going to send it to you every month until you pass away. Okay. Your pension is funded completely and wholly by your employer. You can do nothing to fund your pension. Okay. That is a contribution your employer makes. If you don't know, real quick, every pay period, you get a paycheck, we get a file, it's uploaded into our system, it's got your name on it, the beginning and ending pay period, your gross salary, and then your employer makes contributions based on your gross salary to us, okay? Pension, they make a contribution. Remember the $42.4 billion? It goes into that really big bucket, okay? Because a lot of times I get people, especially our annual statements now, I get a lot of people come to me and say, hey, Jeremy, can I get my 400,000 and run? It's like, no, we don't allow that. So that money is not in an individual account for you. It's going into the large bucket, and your monthly pension is going to come out of that. Okay. The second contribution they make, of course, is for the defined contribution account. If you're My Choice, they make the two contributions to your defined contribution account. Okay. There is a formula that determines what your pension is going to be. Okay. This formula is what we use this is what we're planning on for you. Okay. I'm going to go through that. You're going to understand the formula. And then what your benefit ends up being for your pension is going to be based on your age, years of service, salary, and which pension option you choose. We have several pension options that kind of come out of that formula. Okay. It requires 10 years to be vested in a pension, meaning in 10 years, that makes 10 years of service makes you eligible at some point in the future for a pension. Okay, so that's what vested means. If you don't get 10 years, you're not vested. All right. I also want to say, if you've been around a minute, some of the stuff we cover here and how I cover it, it's going to look very different than what your friends may have done back in 2018 or before, okay, or 2017 or before. So I just want to, I tell people, maybe put what they did kind of up on a shelf. You don't have to throw it all away, but just put it on a shelf and kind of have a fresh mind about it, because we changed a lot of things in 2018, and one of them is the way that we kind of communicate what your benefit is. Your pension funded by your employer. Okay. There's some disability benefits available to folks. So these are what we call pre-retirement benefits. So what that means, if you become deemed disabled by Social Security Administration while on payroll in your PERF position, we can calculate a disability retirement benefit for you. There's also survivor benefits before retirement. What this is referring to is passing away while you're in service, while you're working. So there would be a surviving benefit for a spouse of 2 or more years. We would calculate a benefit for them, or dependent children. You have to have at least 10 years of service for them to be eligible to get that. I get asked that a lot. Hey, I've been working here for 30 years. What happens if I, unexpectedly pass away tomorrow? Well, spouse of 2 or more years we would calculate 100% survivor benefit for them. Eligibility rules. So these are the rules that dictate when you're eligible for a full unreduced retirement benefit, which is what the majority of people are going to take and what they're working towards. I'm going to start with number 3. I always do, because everybody knows about the rule of 85. It's got like a fancy name. Periodically, it'll bubble up in legislation. You might hear about it on the news here and there. Rule of 85 simply means that if you're 55 or older and we add your service and age together and it's 85 or more, you're eligible for a full unreduced pension benefit when you separate employment. But there are 2 other rules that are important to understand. So the first one, age 65 with 10 or more years. So some folks start in their PERF covered employment later in their career. It might be a second career for them. So this option is available to those folks So at 65 with 10 or more years of service, you're eligible. And then probably the least commonly known and can really trip some folks up is the 60 and 15 years. Okay. What I typically say here is don't leave employment if you can help it with like 14 years, 9 months of service. All right. You might want to, put in an extra few months. I was telling my boss, I don't think I ever told her, my manager, I told her this morning about a family member. This is not a joke. And she knows what I do for a living. So it's a little bit embarrassing, but she got a job offer. She wanted that job really bad. She talked to them before she talked to me. Okay. She left her perf covered position with 14 years, 11 months of service. And I'm not kidding. So as you can see, what that really means for her is she's giving up 5 years of a pension. And trust me, when she did finally ask me, hey, what's going on with my perf benefit? What does that look like for me now that I'm leaving? And I'm like, I'm wide-eyed, about to cry. And she, and I'm like, is there any way we can, she was adamant. She'll just come swing back around and get it at some point, I guess, she said. So I say all that to say, and I give you that example to say, I talk to people sometimes. It is beginning a little less often because I think we're doing a better job of communicating and educating folks. But if you leave your perf covered position and you're not immediately going into a perf benefit, you're not going to start your benefits, talk to someone in our office, okay? If people talk to me, I tell them, okay, Bob, I know you're leaving. You've got 18 years of service and you turn 60 January of whatever year. I'm going to tell Bob, you need to see me July of the year before so that we can get your pension retirement application submitted. It's online. So that's what I do with people because I talk to people that unfortunately don't understand eligibility or they mix it up with other things and they miss out on pension benefits. We are not like Social Security. Like if you put it off and you're not in your perf covered position anymore, it's not going up. You're simply losing out on that monthly income. Okay. So super important to know when you're eligible to start it if you're not going immediately into a benefit. On that note, there is a early retirement option for those with 15 or more years of service who are between the age of 50 and 59. Okay. You can take a reduced pension benefit. At age 50, you would get 44% of it. That goes up 5% each year. Then at age 59, you see it's at 89%. So last statement's the most important there because we've had some confusion about that in the past. Your benefit is never going to go up to 100%. You're never going to get 100% of that calculated pension benefit. It's going to be at that reduced rate for your lifetime. So irrevocable decision, important to understand and probably talk to one of us counselors if you are considering that, just so you have a firm understanding of what it means going forward. I signed someone up for it the other day, made sense for them. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense for people, but I do want you to understand it. Let's talk about service. So I'm so sorry. Yeah, allergies, fall allergies. So perf service. So we're in perf. We earn service every month that we work. So month to month. Remember, I told you there's a reporting every pay period. Once the first day is reported that you worked in October, which it'll be coming up here in a couple weeks, you're going to get credit for October. So technically, if you work even one day in the month, you get credit for the whole month. All right. So perf service is earned month to month. Approved leaves of absences. So this can get a little involved. What I want to tell you is on your annual statement, and if you log in and like run a pension estimate, you're going to see the total service that we have for you. And if it does not look right, there is a way to have us look into it. It's called a service credit review. And that is something that you should initiate should you really think that something's off. Typically, I find people kind of know what might be off. So if you submit a service credit review, make sure we know those dates and kind of what you think the issue might be. We work with the employer. Also, if you've had a leave of absence, let's say you took 6 months off, leave of absence, it was approved and to care for a loved one, and you had enough time saved up to cover like 4 months of pay of that 6 months. So 2 months went not paid. It's likely we don't have, reporting for you for those 2 months, but you may be granted time depending on the circumstances for those 2 months. So if you were ever in a situation like that, you can get a hold of our office and we can look into it. If you're in turf, you earn service by days worked. So every pay period on that reporting that I keep talking about that happens, if you're in turf, the Teachers Retirement Fund, we are told how many days you worked in that pay period. So a lot of times it's 10 because we're on a biweekly pay. Once you have 60 days reported to us, after July 1, you get half a year of credit. And then the next, on the 120th day that's reported of work to us, you get the other 6 months, the other half year. So that's how turf service is earned. Substitute teaching may count. Again, leaves of absences may count. If you had substitute teaching, it's worth, kind of understanding how that service may apply. So talk to one of us, or it's in the member handbook as well. You can purchase service. So if you have at least 1 year in the hybrid plan, you're able to purchase service. You must currently be employed in Perf or Turf to purchase service. Unfortunately, I bring up my cousin again. Like after she left employment, she probably really wanted to purchase a month of service, which I told her to do before she left employment, by the way. But she can't because she left employment. You have to be employed. Can't purchase to become vested. Okay, so you can't have like 9 years, 10 months of service and then buy 2 years to get you vested. But it can be used it will be used in your pension calculation. It can be expensive. It is cheapest the first day you're eligible to purchase it. So for most of the types of service you can purchase, that's at a year. It's cheapest then. It's only going to get more expensive. Okay. So keep that in mind. And there's a calculator in your account where you can go to get a quick estimate of what purchasing service would actually cost. Okay. If you want to purchase what we call airtime, you have to have 10 years of service. That's what we mean by you can't buy service to be vested. Okay, a part of it. So what can you purchase? If you had a similar position out of state, you could purchase that service. You're eligible to do it after you've been in your perf position for a year and you're still employed. You cannot be eligible for a pension in that other state. Okay, so that's an important component of that. If you are, please find out when you're supposed to start that pension and start it. Private school, if you teach in obviously we are public retirement plans. Private schools do not offer our plans, but if you taught in a private school, you could potentially purchase that service or substitute teaching. Military service. So prior to your perf position, if you served in the military, you have at least 6 months active duty and an honorable discharge, you can purchase up to 2 years of military service. This military service is cheapest at the year mark of your employment. Okay. And then of course, additional airtime, I alluded to that before. This is just, you don't work the time, you just, like, this is what I wanted my cousin to buy, just 1 month. People don't think about buying this when they're first eligible, which is at 10 years, okay? What you're eligible to buy is 1 year for every 5 that you actually work, okay? So when you're first eligible, 10 years, you can buy 2 years. I had a coworker that did this. Her salary wasn't high, husband works in, finance, and said, hey, buy that. She did, and it was really gonna benefit her in the future. and he knew that it was cheapest then. It's only going to go up. So cheapest at 10 years. Most people want to buy it. I call it the rule of 83. So they're 55 years old. They got 28 years of service, and they come to me and their eyes are bloodshot. They're worn out and tired. They're like, I'm done with this job, Jeremy. So they're like, I'm going to go buy 2 years of service. And it's like, okay, but guess what? Service calculations based on your current salary, service calculation is going to know that Bob, not eligible today for a pension, but if he makes a payment for 2 years of service, that day we start owing him a monthly pension, right? It becomes expensive. So if you're interested in that, look into it today rather than tomorrow. Again, myempressretirement.org, in your account, under the calculators, is where you'll be able to see an estimate for purchasing service. Here's the formula that's defined in state law that determines what your pension is. Okay. It is, we take your final average salary, we multiply it by your years of creditable service, and then we multiply that by 1.1%. That gives us your annual pension benefit. But if you remember earlier, what I said you sign up for when you sign up for a pension is a monthly benefit. Okay. So if you divide your annual by 12, that's your calculated monthly benefit. All right. Final average salary, what is that? We look at your 20 highest quarters of earnings in groups of 4 over your entire perf career, wherever they happened. Okay. So for the majority of people, it's the last 20 quarters. They need to be completed quarters. That's an important statement. Completed quarters. And we're talking about the normal ones. So January to the end of March, April to the end of June, July to the end of September, and then October to the end of December. All right. Completing the quarter means that the wages reported for that quarter are going to count towards your average salary if that happens to be one of your highest, which again, majority of people it is. So it doesn't really penalize you. Like if you, sometimes folks get close to retirement, they're like, bloodshot and tired. They're like, I want something not doing what I'm doing. Like maybe they're in a management position. So they're like, I want to just go back to doing this. A lot more doable, a lot less stress. You can do that even if it pays less. Your average salary is still going to be based on the higher 20 quarters. Okay. The 1.1%, just to let you know, that's determined by the legislature. And the idea that they have behind what our pension is, they want over a 30-year career, they want your pension to replace 1/3 of your salary. So they see retirement as a 3-legged stool. So a 1/3 of your salary is replaced by your pension, a 1/3 of your salary replaced by Social Security, and a 1/3 of your salary replaced by personal savings. So your defined contribution accounts, Hoosier START, big component of that. Okay. Here's some examples of what that formula looks like. So at a 35,000 average salary over a 20-year career, multiplied by 0.011, divided by 12 is a $642 per month pension benefit before taxes. 45,000 over 25, so the salary went up, years of service went up, pension goes up to 1,032, and then you can see the last example there. 2 important words on this page are before taxes. Some folks I'm talking to for the first time maybe, and they're about to retire, and they haven't taken into account that their pension is taxable as income, okay? So what you're gonna pay in taxes on it are federal, state, and local income tax. It's not considered earned income by IRS standards, so it's you don't pay Medicare and Social Security taxes on that money, but you will pay federal, state, and local income tax. So it's important to keep that in mind, to know that at the end of the month, you might not have the full calculated balance there. You can run estimates for yourself online at myempressretirement.org. If you log in, go to calculators, you will see that there's a perf benefit calculator. It'll have your information will be populated there, and you'll be able to run estimates. So defined benefit options. Again, pension options. You have a 5-year certain in life option. Remember when I said that, you take your annual divided by 12, that's your calculated pension benefit. That is always going to be the 5-year in life number, 5-year certain in life number, okay? That option comes with a 5-year guarantee. It does not mean, remember what I said at the beginning, when you start your pension, you're going to get it for your lifetime. That's right. So I clarify that the 5 years throws a lot of people off. And all that means is if you sign up for that option, we guarantee we're going to pay out the first 60 months of your pension benefit, no matter what, the first 5 years. We hope that you get them. You hope that you get them. But in the event you pass away before you get the 60th payment, whatever remains of those first 60, we pay out to a beneficiary that you list on the retirement application. That's what it means. If you get the first 60 payments, again, that's the hope, every month for the rest of your life, you're still going to get that monthly benefit. But when you pass away, nobody gets anything, right? Great life option, no beneficiaries. That's simply for you, no beneficiaries or survivors, okay? So you will always see on an estimate that it's the highest paying option. So if you want to maximize your monthly income, that's a way to do it. You just have to recognize whether you pass away a year into retirement or 35, when you pass, the benefit simply stops. Nobody gets it. And then we have survivorship options. We have several. Have the 100%, meaning that if your benefit's $1,200 a month, their benefit, your survivor's benefit, when you pass away is going to be $1,200 a month for the rest of their life, okay? So what you're going to see on an estimate, which one's coming up, it impacts how much you get to provide that, okay? 66 2/3, then a 50%. Those options are also available. A spouse is eligible for all 3 of those survivor options. The IRS does have some guidelines in place that someone that's not a spouse is going to be eligible for options based on your age when you start the benefit, the survivor benefit, and the difference in age between you and that person. So the idea is just to prevent, like, sometimes great grandmothers provide a survivor benefit to a great grandchild. There is nothing wrong with that. She's like, I want 90 years of a benefit going to my family, and you can do that. But the IRS doesn't want her to be able to offer 100% survivorship to that great grandchild, because it would severely limit how much she gets a month, just the actuarial calculations. Okay. The idea that we have 3 options for spouses, another good idea that I encourage folks that share a budget with someone who may be considering a survivorship, is really good practice to sit down. Not the funnest exercise in the world, but if they pass away first, what does your budget look like? And if you pass away first, what does their budget look like? It may be that, your spouse isn't going to need 100% survivorship. Maybe they were able to build up somewhat of a retirement of their own, and you actually want to have more income while you're still alive, and that allows for it. So here's kind of an example of what a pension benefit or a pension estimate looks like. Okay, so the monthly benefit column, that would be what the member you get when you sign up. So you pick one of those potentially 5 options. And this is a good example of how a benefit is impacted by providing a survivorship. Okay, and then on the last column, you see what that survivor gets for whichever option you choose. 100%, they're going to get the $1,261, just like you got. They get it for their lifetime. They cannot pass it on to anybody else. Okay, so I get that question a lot. Something that happened years ago that's significant, that is a really great thing for our members, is that you can change your pension option in retirement, and you do not have to have a life event. So years and years ago, when your buddy, Paul retired, prior to 2000, whenever, I'm not clear exactly what year this changed. It was around 2016, 2018, something. It was required a marriage, divorce, or a death for him to change his pension option. So one of those life events, he had to prove it to change his pension options. That's no longer the case. So this really provides an opportunity for our members to potentially provide survivorships at different points in their retirement, should it seem like a good idea. Okay, so you can sign up for those later. The numbers will be lower because you're going to have received a pension benefit all those years, but it is something you can do now. So it's a great way to plan for your family if you want. Passing away unexpectedly obviously has a drawback there that if you don't change your option, you can't, you're kind of stuck with what you passed away with. But we do have a Social Security integration option. This option is if you are already 62 or older, you don't even have to listen to what I'm about to say because it doesn't apply to you. You're not eligible for it. The Social Security integration option is available for anybody who retires before the age of 62. How I want you to envision what that pension option provides, and it's something we provide. I know the name gives the impression that we work with Social Security Administration, but we do not. I doubt they even know we offer this, okay? So we don't ask them information about you. We don't talk to them on your behalf. But this option allows you to get in advance of your pension. So you would get a higher pension amount every month from when you start to age 62. On your 62nd birthday, your pension benefit decreases. Typically, it decreases by the amount you would get from Social Security if you started that benefit at 62. So we actually require that current benefit estimate from Social Security to even calculate what this option looks like for you. So this person, I know that at age 62, if they started their Social Security benefit, they would get $1,300. Okay, so why we call it integration? You can see if this person picked the straight life option, every month until their 62nd birthday, they would get $2,371. So they would get an advance of pension income. After age 62, it would go down by $1,300 to $1,071. So in order to stay at that higher income level, they could, but they need to sign up for Social Security at age 62 to do that. Okay. If you're interested at all in that option, my biggest advice is talk to a counselor to make sure you understand it. It again is irrevocable. We get a lot of calls when people turn 62 that, if they signed up for that, they didn't really understand it. And the last thing I'm going to say about it, we do not care. We will never care when you sign up for Social Security. Okay. Some people, I think, have thought this option means that they have to sign up at 62. That's just not true. You just have to be prepared that the scenario that you signed up for with us, that's going to happen at 62. Okay. There are a couple ways to retire without separating employment. Millie Morgan is a retirement type that we have. Millie Morgan was a woman, worked in Southern Indiana. She loved her job, but she had a recognition that, hey, I'm, getting older and I would love to quit and start my pension, but I don't want to quit my job because I love my job. She got, legislator agreed with her and changed or made a law that allows for folks to start their pension without separating employment, which everybody else has to do. But if you're eligible for Millie Morgan, you can start your pension while still employed. I want to be clear that nothing else about your employment changes. All right. So your benefits don't change, your leave time accrual doesn't change, the leave payout at the end of your career doesn't change, your health care doesn't change. These are all questions we've gotten. When it was first initiated, it was the eligibility was age 70 with 20 or more years. And just this year, July 1, legislators passed legislation to change the age to 65. So this made a lot of people eligible for this. You may be eligible for this now. I see a lot of scenarios where starting a Millie Morgan retirement is going to benefit people. So if it's something you're considering and you don't really know how to look at the numbers, love to talk to you about it. That's another good time to really probably have a one-on-one and let us show you the numbers so you can at least make an informed decision. Elected officials also have an option at age 55 if they have 20 or more years and they're serving in that elected position. Working after retirement, we no longer offer second retirements, okay? there is a way to start your pension and return to PERF covered employment. You simply have to have a 30-day separation of employment. Okay, so what that means, you would start getting your pension for the rest of your life, but you could return. You've probably seen this happen at your agencies. You can return and get that salary. You're not going to be re-enrolled in PERF. Okay, but you will be able to get that pension benefit and the salary from your job. Super important to note with state employees, we're going to talk about the retirement medical benefit account here in a second. If you return to state employment after starting your pension, you suspend the ability to use the funds in the RMBA to reimburse yourself for premiums on healthcare. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you're working for the state, you don't have access to RMBA. You have to be separated. So you're not going to earn additional credit. You're not going to get contributions to your DC. Private sector, just to let you, I always joke, I'm going to go work at Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's. I love those. I spend all day in those places. So in retirement, that's probably where you'll find me. Private sector employment, 30-day is separation is not required. Okay, it's only for PERF employers. So I'm going to talk about no earning limitations because, and there's kind of a sidebar to what I'm going to say on this. A lot of people ask us, hey, if I'm going to make $1,200 a month on my pension, do you guys care how much I make anywhere else? No, we don't. I don't know how we would ever know. And quite frankly, some people probably go on and have some of the highest earning years of their life because they start their pension and then they go work somewhere else. You can do that. But what I also want you to know, and the reason this question's asked, is people start confusing benefits. All right. So I want you to be very organized as you go into your retirement phase of life. There are a lot, I could rattle off 7 different benefits right now that you're eligible for. And it can get confusing. The eligibility for the different things can get confusing, and you're going to start crossing over and be like, I saw a former state employee, he gave up $100,000+ in pension income because he misunderstood eligibility rules for us versus Social Security. Okay, so keep it organized. The last thing I'm going to say about it, your pension income, if you do start Social Security benefits and they have an earning limitation on you because of when you started that benefit, pension income does not apply to that earning limitation. Okay. Again, the IRS doesn't consider this income earned. We know you earn it, but you're not punching a time card to get it anymore. This is the result of a benefit of your employment. What they're talking about, their earning limitation, is you going to punch a time clock and making money. Second part of the PERF, I know I'm getting close on time. I'm going to fly through this. I'm going to make an important statement. The pension and the defined contribution account are completely separate. They have no interaction with each other. If you knew Paul, who retired 10 years ago, you probably heard Paul talk about rolling in his DC into his pension. Doesn't work that way now. You have the distinct options, the 6 options that I reviewed earlier in the My Choice section of the presentation. So PERF hybrid folks, you also get the mandatory 3% contributed to your account. Technically, as members, this is our responsibility, but the state puts it in on our behalf. This money always belongs to you. No hardship withdrawals available. Up to 10% you can add on a post-tax basis. I talked about that money, your defined contribution accounts, and you manage how it's invested, just like the My Choice folks. You also get a quarterly statement. You're also going to get an annual statement that's going to give you an estimated monthly benefit based on when they see your retirement date. These annual statements, by the way, if you happen to be a Rule of 85 person, the full retirement date that they list on these pretty close to your Rule of 85. If you're one of those folks, that's your first eligibility. So if you're not getting these annual member statements and you're in PERF hybrid, it's because we don't have a good address for you. We also in Perf Hybrid have an option to take an in-service withdrawal of that defined contribution money at age 59 and a half, as long as you're eligible for a full unreduced pension benefit. This is what our website looks like. The third item over in the menu is about retirement and counseling. That's where you would go if you want to set up an appointment with a counselor or attend an online webinar. My Orange Money. So just to let you know, we partner with Voya. They manage our defined contribution accounts. They're the little orange bunny and orange squirrel, I think. They also have this tool on their web, on your website. So this is an interactive tool. It's meant for you to go in and put in different factors in order to get close to like what you want in retirement versus where you're currently, on what you're on trend to do. I think I want to reiterate, it's meant that you interact with it. And that 1876 that you see in the top left corner, that is not an estimate of your pension, okay? Voya estimates your pension and then an annuitization of your money under their numbers. So I've had a few people confused about that, and so I like to point it out. You can submit an online retirement application 6 months prior to your retirement date. We prefer to have them at least 90 days prior to your retirement date to process. If you don't give us the 90 days, it's actually okay. It just means you may have a bigger gap between your last paycheck from work and your first pension check from us. How do you sign up? You can self-serve your applications in your account. You can attend a retirement workshop. We started those up again. We took a hiatus for a while, but we're back at doing those once a month at various libraries. I cover Marion County, so if you're around here, look for those. One-on-one sessions, that's where we talk. We provide an estimate to you and we talk specifically about your numbers and questions. I told you earlier, online is where you can sign up. That's the best place to sign up for a one-on-one appointment. Get to see all of our schedules. And then you can call into the, talk to a member advocate and get help with an application. Our phone number is 844-GO-INPRS. So it's listed there. It's 844-464-6777. That gets you to a two-tiered call center. First tier, you're going to talk to someone at Voya. If you have a pension question, you might want to talk to someone here at InPRS to get, you know, if you have some detailed questions, they're going to understand our pension plans a bit better. Okay, I have no time. I have -2 minutes time. Retirement medical benefit account. So state employees are eligible for this benefit, whether you're in Perf Hybrid or Perf My Choice. So it's every year of employment, a contribution is made on your behalf. So if your age on December 31st of the prior year is 30 or less than 30, you're going to get $500 contribution for that year. 30 to 40, 800. You can see the numbers. That's what's going into this account for you every year. These accounts are only to be used to pay for premiums for medical, dental, vision, insurance, and some long-term care plans. Okay, they can't be used if you break your arm, have a hospital bill, you can't pay the hospital bill with this money. There's a claim process. You'll be sent a packet about that, and it's for you, your spouse, and dependents. And if you pass away, a surviving spouse and dependents can still use the funds. I encourage you to visit the website. You can access it through our InPRS website to look at the particulars. There's a lot of FAQs. I think you can see a sample claim form. You can actually go and see your balance. So for those working right now, you can see your balance. After you retire, you're going to hear from key benefit administrators, FlexPro. They're the ones that administer those accounts after retirement. This is how to get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a specific question you can't find an answer to, go to questions@inprs.in.gov, send us an email. There's our website. Give us a call. One North Capitol, we're just down the street. Our lobby's open 8:30 to 4:30. I'm gonna, like Lisa said earlier, I'm gonna cover some of the questions we received via registrations. If you have particular questions that I wasn't able to answer, then we have a table out there. We'd be happy to answer any of your particular questions. Can you please explain the 60-15 retirement option? Does one have to be actively working for the state at the age of 60 to actually qualify for this option? No. If you get, remember my cousin, I really wanted her to get 15 years because I knew that at age 60, if she wasn't working, in her perf covered position, she could start that pension benefit, even if she's working at a private sector employer, not working anywhere. So you're still eligible for it. So the answer is no. It is important to understand, though, that if you leave state employment and you are not at that moment that you separate employment eligible for a full unreduced pension benefit. So this is real important. You lose the money in the RMBA. You don't have access to it. Okay. You have to, one of the rules of eligibility on that account is the day you leave employment, you're eligible for a full unreduced pension benefit. I've had people that have left like a month earlier, knowing that they're still going to be able to get their pension, but they left a month before their eligibility. They just needed their age to catch up, and they lost out on the RMBA just by simply not working a month. A lot of people get antsy when they get eligible. And I tell people, I'll tell you the date you're eligible, but I really don't mind you working a month or two just to, kind of let it fester, you might say. Is there written assistance anywhere that says, once I decide what I need to do first? Yes. So it's a good idea to have a meeting with us when you're getting close to retirement. We like to see people at least 2 years prior to start that conversation. I like to see a lot sooner, especially if you're looking at, changing how your money's invested. That can change, the trajectory of your retirement, depending on how early you start that, and make changes depending on what you want to do. State Personnel Department also they have an offboarding section on their website. That's going to walk you through a lot of your other benefits as well. It's going to talk about us. It's going to talk about nationwide Hoosier START, but they also talk about the early retiree insurance and all the different things. If I'm 56 with 30 years of service, what money am I entitled to withdraw? I'm assuming from the defined contribution account without penalty at that time. We always advise at the time of retirement and starting these benefits and talking about these accounts for you to, talk to a tax advisor. They can be very beneficial in saving you some headaches regarding taxes on these accounts and money. There is a caveat to the 10% penalty that if you're starting a pension at the same time, even if you're 56, if you're starting a pension, that the 10% penalty won't apply. So you'll simply pay we'll withhold the 20% for taxes, but you won't be assessed a 10% penalty. But it's always, again, talk to a tax advisor. Am I able to work for a state as a contractor post-retirement and still collect retirement plus income from being a contractor? The answer to that's yes. 1099 contractor, it's not an employer or an employee-employer relationship, so it has no bearing. The rules are like private sector. Like I said earlier, what is the difference between the defined contribution and pension? Hopefully you got that from the presentation. When will the money in my choice retirement savings plan be available for me to withdraw? Upon separation of employment, like 30 days after that, you can access those funds. Keep in mind the penalty that might apply if you're under 59 and a half, or at full retirement age at 62. Once you separate employment, anytime after that, you have all the 6 options with that money. What is the time frame for applying? According to the state personnel office. So with us, we'd like the application 90 days prior, but you're still going to give notice at work, to your supervisor or your local HR person. Business standard and what the state wants to leave in good standing, 2 weeks. Consider giving more if you're in a hard to fill position. Someone's asking about the My Choice plan and the difference in being able to invest that money versus being able to invest your money in a perf hybrid plan. Everybody has a defined contribution account. All the money in that defined contribution account, you manage how it's invested, regardless of which plan you're in. Last two questions, I promise. This is a good one. If I choose to leave my InPRS job prior to my eligible retirement date, do I qualify for retirement health insurance? That is a great question for state personnel. I could not determine from reading the early retiree insurance language. Talk to your local HR. That's a great question for them, or call the benefits hotline. If you're talking about the RMBA, I just covered that. The answer is no. If you leave and you're not eligible that day for a full unreduced pension benefit, you're not going to be able to access that RMBA money. If I roll my defined contribution account over to my retirement, how do I know how much more it will be? So we don't do roll-ins anymore. That's the first thing I'm going to, kind of let you know. InPRS is not annuitizing that money anymore. If you want to do what this person's alluding to, you could purchase an annuity, which would provide you that guaranteed monthly income for life. And that's the thing we offer now that looks most like what people used to do by rolling that in. Okay. Thanks for your time. If you still have questions, there's a table. We're at the table. Come and ask us questions. We'd love to see you. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Wow, you're going to make me work today. Fair enough. That's all right. Let's see if this works. Check one. Does. Great. Give me 1 second. We've got to change a couple slides around, so just give me a minute on that. My name is Dave Harris. I'm a part of the Nationwide Retirement Institute, and I was asked to come out today to talk to you a little bit about healthcare, really Medicare. When you're looking at retiring, for the majority of us, Medicare is going to become a part of our overall retirement. This is going to be at least a portion of our healthcare. And for most of us, it's going to be our main healthcare that we're going to have. My group with Nationwide, there's only 3 of us. Now we have other people that do research and marketing for us and other people that help us on the inside, but there are 3 people that do what I do for the company. And that's come out and work with people just like you on all the different things that you're going to have to look at when looking to retire, different programs like Social Security and things like healthcare. One of the things I want to let you know, we are not going to talk about any types of products. Nationwide has plenty of different products that we offer. That's not my role. Nationwide does not, however, have any Medigap supplemental plans or anything that goes along with Medicare. That's not at all what we do, and that's not why we do this presentation. Really, the reason we do this presentation is that we know that when you're looking to retire, living in retirement, healthcare and healthcare cost, it is something that many times people underestimate. They don't fully understand. And my job when we're talking about Medicare is to give you a good high level on how Medicare works, but also help to familiarize you with the overall cost. Because what we've seen through years of research and just myself, I've been in retirement income planning since 1999. I've been doing it professionally with Nationwide since 2007. Left unmanaged, and if you don't forecast the cost when it comes down to healthcare, many times healthcare can become a risk to the success of your retirement income plan. And I'll explain a little bit more about what I mean by that as we go through the presentation. Now, we are going to cover 3 things. We're going to talk about some of the challenges we face with retirement, so some of the risks that we look at. We're going to spend some time talking about Medicare itself, and then we have a tool at Nationwide that you all have access to. There's no charge to use this tool. One of the Nationwide representatives can help you with this tool, and it will help you estimate healthcare cost specific to you and a spouse. When we're starting off, we're taking a look at some of the challenges. I always tell the story on how I got into retirement income planning. If you're not a fan, I am sorry, but I graduated from Ohio State. There we go, boos. Boos are fun. Yesterday I was in Michigan. The boos were a lot louder, trust me. I was in Grand Rapids and I was up in Traverse City, and they booed quite loud, which is totally fine. But I did graduate from Ohio State with a finance degree. Nationwide and Ohio State are on the same road, about 3 miles apart. Went to work as an intern to finish up my degree with Nationwide in 97 and stayed ever since. My parents, though, decided at the beginning of 99, they were going to retire at the end of 99. Now, I came from a small family. It was my mom, my dad, and me, and that was it. They gave me a good start in life. They helped me get through college with minimal loans. They helped me have a good work ethic. Very tight family. When they're looking to retire, now they're in a world that I understand a little bit more about. I'm licensed to sell financial products. I have a degree in finance. And this is where I've spent a good part of my short adult life at that point in time studying. So on my own, over the course of about 7 months, I study everything I can on retirement income planning. I read books. I'm searching on the internet. I'm talking to other financial professionals that have been in the business way longer than I was. I buy a 2-inch 3-ring binder and I start putting all of this information together for my parents. It was a labor of love is really what it came down to. September of 99, my parents were in Dayton, Ohio. I was in Columbus, Ohio. I said, hey, why don't you guys come up? Let's sit down, let's have lunch, and let's talk about your retirement. They said, sure. They came up, we sat down. I found out pretty quick there was only one of that invitation they heard. Anybody want to guess it? Lunch. Nothing to do with all the work that I had put in. It just came down to, hey, let's have lunch. I open my book. My dad shuts my book. Happens 3 times over lunch. My dad at the end says, Dave, we just really want to enjoy the time with you. We don't get to see you very often. And, you know, we're going to be fine. Now, that's true. We were able to get them through retirement on their own terms. But we saw some challenges. We saw some risk. I'm going to skip through some of these slides because marketing puts these together so I can talk for about 2 hours and I have about 35 minutes. So you're going to see me skip some of these. But what I really want to talk about when we're looking at the risk is the difference between risk before retirement and risk during retirement. When you're looking at risk before retirement, we're going to see market loss. We're going to see inflation, much like we saw last year. Last year was a great example of both, unfortunately. But when you're working, you're in a situation where you're not using the assets from your retirement accounts. Inflation, we're hoping that we can earn a little bit more the next year to keep up with inflation. When you're living in retirement, that changes. You're living off of your financial assets, and if you need an increase, you're creating that increase for yourself. So my parents going from their working years into the retirement years, up until really sometime in 2000, 99 was a perfect year to retire. Stock markets were doing phenomenal. But the tech bubble burst in 2000. My parents' very first year in retirement, the market was down. Second year, the market was down. The third year, the market was down. They got off to a rocky start. Inflation, not a big risk for them early in retirement. After 7, 10 years, it became a risk. One that surprised us was healthcare. We all know that healthcare is a cost. It's going to be a cost during our working years. It's going to be a cost in our retirement years. But when we're on a fixed income, we have so much assets that we have available to us. We're creating income from those assets. We need to have enough income to cover the healthcare costs, not just today, but in the future. One of the things that we've done at Nationwide, this goes back to 2010. We started doing a little bit of research with a company by the name of Harris Polls. We go out to people pre-retirement and say, what do you think you're going to spend that very first year out of pocket on healthcare cost? You can see the numbers. 84% of people say that they really don't know, or they can't estimate, or they underestimate those costs. But the biggest one is right here. 44% of people surveyed in the last survey that we did said they don't know, they can't estimate. And that's that very first year in retirement. When do you think you're going to have the highest healthcare cost? The first couple of years of retirement or the last couple of years of retirement? It's going to most likely be the last couple of years of retirement. And I'm going to give you the example with my folks. 99, when they were looking to retire, 2 medications, both the same medications, high cholesterol. They took total ownership for that. Based off of their lifestyle, they said, we've earned that one. The second was high blood pressure, which they blame me entirely for. Probably warranted. However, when they passed, my dad in 2013, he was on 15 medications. had a pacemaker in and had other procedures done. My mom, 2014, she passed away. She was on 12 medications. But when we were battling Alzheimer's, she was on over 20 medications at one point in time. The cost was considerably higher at the end of retirement versus the beginning. That's why we have this presentation. We want to help you understand how the healthcare costs are going to transition through time. Not only as we see inflation on our premiums, our copays and deductibles for the insurance, but also on the usage. That's really what we want to help people understand. The way we do that is by talking about the Medicare system. Now, again, I don't have any products when it comes down to healthcare. Well, I have to say this. We do not offer health insurance for people. We are the #1 pet insurer in the US. I had a meeting a long time ago, 5 years was before COVID, where I had the leader that ran pet insurance. And I said, we don't offer health insurance. And they stopped me and said, we do. It's just not for people. It's for pets. So I have to throw that in every time ever since I made that little mistake. But we don't offer any kind of supplemental plans to try to sell you when it comes down to Medicare. This is only going to be just for education. When you're taking a look at the overall cost, when you're looking at healthcare, this is from 2020. It's going to be relatively the same at this point in time. The average 65-year-old couple out of pocket will spend somewhere between $270,000 to $325,000. Does that surprise anybody? Does that scare anybody? First time I saw these numbers is when my dad lost his medical insurance from GM back in 2008 going into 2009. GM was restructuring. My dad was an engineer. He lost his medical benefits from GM when he was in retirement. With that, I'm going out to do the research to try to figure out what the cost is going to be for 2009 and also what insurance we should be signing up for. I find numbers like this. My parents don't have these amounts in their savings accounts and their investment accounts. They were lower back then, but not a lot. And I'll tell you what, I didn't sleep for 2 days as I'm trying to figure out how we're going to put together their retirement income plan to cover this cost. And then it dawned on me. These numbers I put up here for one reason. If you go out and look up healthcare costs and retirement, you're going to find these numbers. These are widely just available. They are out there everywhere. Most companies, most publications will use numbers very close to this. This isn't really anything that's going to help you when looking at healthcare during your retirement years. You don't need to write a check for $325,000 the day you retire to cover healthcare costs. How will the cost impact you? Month over month, usage after usage. It's not a 20-year time frame that you're paying in one lump sum. It's that monthly expense. There's the term that everybody uses, and then there's the one that I use. When I'm looking at helping people prepare for transition into living through their retirement years, most times people will say, you know, what type of budget am I going to put together? Who here likes budgets? It's pretty much what I get every one of these presentations. Quite frankly, I don't like budgets either. It's not really what you're putting together during your retirement years. What you're putting together is a spending plan. How are you going to spend your income during your retirement years? It's a very different mindset. A lot of times your budget is during your working years where you're looking to save more or to cover an expense. During your retirement years, we're looking at this idea of a spending plan. We have so much that we can create an income. How will we spend that income down year over year? Healthcare is going to be one of the line items in your spending plan. So when you see numbers like this, don't get nervous. It's going to end up being a monthly line item on your spending plan. A lot of times when people talk about Medicare, they do think that Medicare is going to cover long-term care cost or assisted living type of needs. It does not. Medicare will cover rehabilitation, which is very different than a long-term care or assisted living type of need. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. When you're signing up for Medicare, two different options, totally different options. Option one, this is that traditional type of Medicare. This is when Medicare was created. This is what It was. No other options. It was option one and option one only. This is the part of Medicare or the option with Medicare that has all the moving parts and pieces. You have Medicare Part A for hospitalization insurance, Medicare Part B for your basic insurance like doctor visits. You're going to have leftover cost with Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. That's where the secondary insurance comes in. Secondary insurance, the GHI, all that stands for is group health insurance, is what my dad had from GM, and we lost going into 2009. Once we lost that coverage, we went to one of the Medigap supplemental plans. We found the one that fit them the best. We found out what the expense was going to be, and we put that in the line item for our healthcare cost and our spending plan. That's what it was. The last part is going to be pharmaceutical coverage. Could be, again, a group health insurance plan, like my dad had from GM, or a Medicare Part D plan. D as in drug. If you go with option one, couple things. Number one, Medicare, the government program, is taking the risk on of you becoming an insured through them. So this is where the government has risk for every person that signs up for Medicare Part or option one. Medicare is on the hook to pay the cost. Option two is where Medicare, the government agency, pays an insurance company by subsidizing an insurance company per person that signs up for an option two plan to take the risk away from Medicare. So instead of Medicare having a person as a risk and they have to cover the cost for, they pick that risk up, they transfer it over to an independent insurance company. The insurance company is offering products for profit. A way to bring that cost down and incent those insurance companies to offer these plans is Medicare will subsidize the overall insurance. So they bring that cost down. These plans are much like many of the plans that we had during our working years. It's a prepackaged plan. It's like an HMO or a PPO where you have a network of hospitals, doctors, pharmacies. If you stay within a network, you have a known cost. However, if you step outside of that network, now the cost is going to be higher because you're out of network. Some of these networks are huge. Some cover national, some cover even some international. However, some of these plans are incredibly small. I've seen plans that cover 2 different counties in a state. So if you leave those 2 counties, you're now out of network. Or you have so many doctors that you can see, so many pharmacies that you can use. In Ohio, I was helping some friends that live out in the country, and they were choosing between option 1 and option 2. And I'm not going to encourage somebody one or the other. My job is to explain both, and then people make the right choices for themselves. With the option 2 plans that were available to them, the doctor that was closest was 90 minutes away. The hospital that was the closest was 2 hours away. So what you're going to want to do is look at both options and make the right choice for you. Now, when we're looking at the parts with option 1 with Medicare, one of the things we have to take a look at is Medicare Part A. This is the part of Medicare that we have prepaid the premiums for. People ask all the time, all those years that we pay into Medicare, does it actually go anywhere? The answer is yes. You are prepaying your premiums for Medicare Part A. You cannot have any other part of Medicare until you have Medicare Part A. You turn on Medicare Part A. Now you can sign up for the different parts of Medicare. You can choose between the 2 different options. But if you have never paid any money into Medicare and you want to have Medicare here in the States, I see this a lot because I do cover basically 1/3 of the country. And a lot of times I do have people coming to meetings that are coming from Canada. They're wanting to move to the States for retirement. They've never paid dime one into Medicare. Medicare per person per month, Medicare Part A would be over $400 per person per month just to have that one piece of Medicare. So the answer is yes, the dollars that we pay in do go somewhere. It prepays our premiums. We pay in for at least 10 years. We prepaid all the premiums we have to for Medicare Part A. What it's going to cover is inpatient hospitalization, skilled nursing and home health care for rehabilitation purposes only, and then hospice for end-of-life comfort. That is it. Now, here's the thing. Many times when you're seeing skilled nursing or home health care, that's where there's confusion about like a long-term care need or assisted living. The rule with Medicare, to qualify for skilled nursing or home health care, you have to have a condition that you are going to recover from. I'm going to give you a very quick example. My mom had Alzheimer's, and she was walking down the hall at my family home that I grew up in, fell and broke her leg. She was in the hospital for 4 days. They transferred her to a nursing facility to have rehabilitation on the leg. As she had the leg set and she was stable, they moved her over to the nursing facility for that rehabilitation. Every day, the physical therapist and the assistant had to track how well my mom was recovering. On day 18, she plateaued, meaning there was no more improvement. On day 19, Medicare stopped paying the bill because it was no longer a need for rehabilitation. Unfortunately for us, as my mom was outside of her normal environment for 20-some days, her Alzheimer's got worse. So she needed to stay in a facility, but it was no longer Medicare paying the bill, it was us. So that's the big difference between Medicare and what it covers when it comes to a nursing facility, and then like an assisted living or something along those lines, long-term care. Medicare Part B, this is that basic insurance that we're all going to use to go see our doctors. It's going to cover things like outpatient procedures and walkers and wheelchairs. It covers sickness and well visits. You're going to have a monthly premium, so you have not prepaid your premiums here. We'll talk about that next, but you're going to have an annual per person deductible of $233. Once you've met your deductible, what's going to happen is your coinsurance is going to kick in, where Medicare covers 80% of the Medicare approved amount. We cover the other 20%. So say it's a doctor visit. You go to the doctor, you're sick, you want to get well, you've already met your copay for the year. What ends up happening? Well, it's a doctor visit. Let's just say it's $100. Medicare pays $80. You pay the other $20. Fair enough. What's done today is an outpatient procedure. Just about everything. Thank you. It is just about everything. Good friend of mine, right before COVID, it was the end of 2019, on Medicare, had his hip done. It was done as an outpatient procedure. What qualifies as an outpatient procedure is from the time you were admitted to the time you were discharged being within a 24-hour time frame. So if you're admitted and discharged within that 24-hour time frame, what ends up happening is Medicare will see that as an outpatient procedure, and you will be billed under Medicare Part B as in boy, your basic coverage. How much do you think a new hip cost? In outside of Columbus, Ohio, it was around $50,000. And I had him track all this stuff for me. So what he liked to say, from couch to couch, so when he left his couch to the time after the procedure, he got back to his couch, was around 8 hours. So done within 24 hours. $50,000 was the bill that he rounded off for me. He had secondary coverage. He actually had a couple different types of secondary coverage from a previous employer. And then he also had a Medigap policy. It covered the 20%, but if he didn't have that 20% coverage, that could have been a $10,000 bill for that one replacement part. We just have to understand what these expenses can look like. Because again, my job is to help you prepare for these costs when you're looking to transition into and live through retirement. We don't want to have surprises, especially when it comes down to our income. Now, when you're looking at the Medicare Part B premiums, this is from 2022. 2023, the numbers are actually a little bit lower at the top and a little higher at the bottom. But Medicare is always going to look at your modified adjusted gross income the last time you filed your taxes. What's going to happen is if you're filing as an individual or jointly, whatever your modified adjusted gross income level is, you're going to pay the according, the corresponding amount that you're seeing up on the screen. Now, for most of us, and when I say most, it's over 90% of the population, we fall at that very top number. This year, it's about $160. So this just becomes, again, another line item in our spending plan. That's all it is. When you're looking at pharmaceutical coverage, it's the same type of thing. You're going to have to pay the insurance company for pharmaceutical coverage with a Medicare Part D, but there's also going to be a surcharge on top of that based off of your modified adjusted gross income. It's one of those things where if we have that higher income, we just have to prepare for what the cost is going to be. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to fast forward you to this. This right here is what I was looking for from my parents in 2008 going into 2009. I needed the information on to figure out what type of insurance we were going to sign up for, and that was a separate thing that I was working on. So that was basically part two of the overall losing the GM coverage. Part one was determining overall what the cost is going to look like for, in this case, 2009. So I make sure that we have enough income to cover this line item in our spending plan. If you break down Medicare option one, and you look at all the different components. So Medicare Part A, we prepaid as long as we paid them for 10 years. So there's no cost to have Medicare Part A. Medicare Part B, as low as $160 this year. For most of us, that's what we're going to be paying. Now, these two really haven't changed. Medicare Part D, the national average. Now, this will change county to county across the U.S. as far as the cost. The national average is right around $45. And then the Medigap plan that we're seeing used the most right now, again, we don't offer these, is a Plan G, which is a comprehensive plan that really covers pretty much most of the leftover copays and deductibles left with Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B as in boy. So if you're looking at having your insurance, it's going to roughly be either per person or per year, what you're seeing on the screen. This is what I was looking for. And you can use this information. This can help. 100%, this can help. It's much better than getting a number like $325,000, and that's going to be healthcare costs in your retirement years. This at least helps you put together your plan, your spending plan. We can do better. That's all there is to it. When you're looking at the Medicare Advantage plan, so option two of the two different choices that we have, option two, the key here is making sure if you sign up for an option two plan, you are signing up for the plan that's going to make most sense and give you the best coverage for you. And that can change every year. With option one, you're really not going to change much except for maybe your pharmaceutical plan. Over here, with option two, with the independent insurance companies offering these products, they can change or you can change your choices every year. It's always going to be during open enrollment. Open enrollment is actually starting every year. It's the same. It will be starting this month. It starts October 15th and it runs through December 7th every year. And that's where, if you're on Medicare, you can make choices and make changes. When it comes down to it, though, one of the big questions, and I know this is the main question that I had as far as people asking questions ahead of time, is when do I have to sign up? And if somebody's covered under my insurance, do they need to have proof that they were insured if they're beyond 65? And the answer there is yes, and I'll explain that here in a minute. When you're taking a look at Medicare itself, you're going to have signing up at 65 is what Medicare wanting you to do. They're going to encourage you strongly. They will even get many times phone calls from Medicare saying you have to sign up around 65. You're going to have the month you turn 65, the month before you turn 65, or 3 months before, and 3 months after you turn 65. It works out to be a 7-month period of time. It's referred to as your initial enrollment period. So you have 7 months to choose all the different parts and pieces of Medicare. Medicare wants you to sign up at that point in time during this initial 7-month window around your 65th birthday. Because Medicare wants you paying into the system before you're going to start to need the system extensively. That's really what it is. And actually, I've had these conversations with Medicare. That is what it is. They want us paying in before we're using the system. We're helping people that are on the system that are older. But the answer, do you have to sign up gets a little more gray. Medicare wants you to sign up, but if you have qualified coverage, either from your own employment or through a spouse's employment, the answer is no, you don't have to sign up. But what will happen is you want to make sure that you have continuous coverage from the time you turn, really before 65, up until the time that you are going to be covered by Medicare. You want 0 gaps. Avoid using COBRA. What you're looking for here is having continuous coverage from an employer, either for yourself or through a spouse, and make sure that that is continuous from 65 up until you're going to make that transition and actually are covered by Medicare. Medicare, many times when you're doing this, will say, that's great. You need to prove to us that you had qualified coverage. And that's where you're going to have to go back to Medicare with the insurance information on each one of the years that you waited past 65. Just make sure you have that handy. You can send that to Medicare. Medicare is expecting that, but if you don't provide that to them, there is a penalty, and it works out to be about a 10% every year that you would wait past 65. So if you wait till 68 to turn your benefits on, can't provide that or don't provide, showing that you had the continuous coverage and it was qualified, you now have a 30% penalty for different parts of Medicare, and that 30% penalty is for life. So we want to avoid that 100%. If you have questions about, does the insurance that I have or a spouse have qualify to take the place of Medicare, all you have to do is call the insurance company, give them your information, and ask. They will tell you yes or no. There's no maybe. When it really comes down to what we can do for you, and this is where the Nationwide team, we have representatives from Nationwide outside. We have people that work across the state that are representatives to be able to help you prepare for a transition into live in retirement. They can help you with this report. Now, we have other things that we can provide as well. But one of the things that we do provide is giving you an idea of what healthcare costs will look like specifically for you and a spouse, based off of exactly what I said, you. Everything I just showed you before was national averages and ranges. What this does is it takes away the averages and looks at the county that you're looking to live in. It looks at your health conditions, and it helps you understand what your cost is going to look like. The way we run this report is based off of a one-page fact finder that I'll show you here in a minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a snapshot at a point in time. So we're going to look at your age, your retirement age. We're going to calculate life expectancy based off of everything on this page, except for your name. The very top, it's the only thing that won't change the numbers on this report. We're going to give you get an idea of what modified adjusted gross income you're expecting to be at. Tell us how much information or how much coverage you want to have included in this report. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. We're looking at yes, no questions. Have you ever been diagnosed with high blood pressure, high cholesterol? Yes or no? Type 1, type 2 diabetes? Yes or no? Now, we've been doing this presentation a long time. The first month of doing this presentation, I met the healthiest people I had ever seen in my life. And I realized something. They were lying because they thought they were signing up for some type of product. That's not what this is. This is giving you an idea of healthcare cost. Do you think you're going to have a higher healthcare cost if you're relatively unwell versus relatively well? Who's going to have the higher cost? Who says unwell? Who says well? Who says just tell me the answer? All right, thank you. We're going to go with option C. Just telling you the answer, it will be the healthy. Healthy will have higher healthcare costs throughout their retirement because when you total everything up at the end of retirement, the healthy, on the average, will live longer. They will still have health conditions that they will battle towards the end of their retirement, and they will see more inflation because they've lived longer. So the cost is higher for those, the overall cost is higher for those that are relatively healthy. What I'm going towards here is, if you want to run this, just be honest. You're going to be the only ones that see the report. I won't see it. The Nationwide representatives won't see it unless you ask them to. This is strictly for your information. The big thing that we can provide is going to be this right here. We're looking at a husband and a wife. Anybody want to guess what happened to the husband? He passed away. His retirement came to an end. What we're doing is based off of all the questions that we're asking and getting the answers to, we're giving an idea of life expectancy. We're also going to be able to give you an idea of what year by year you can expect healthcare costs to look like for all the different parts of Medicare and the usage. So with Medicare Part B, your pharmaceutical coverage and a secondary insurance like a Medigap policy. Your additional cost would be pharmaceuticals and procedures based off of your health. We're going to show the same information for husband and wife, and then we're going to give you some totals. The key here is that when you're looking year by year, you can look at the totals to be able to help you with your spending plan. If you're looking at this pre-retirement, what you can do is look at the very bottom of the report. You're going to be able to get an idea of your average annual healthcare cost, because this is a question I get all the time. So what is my number? From my seat, there are a lot of numbers we've got to be concerned with. So I ask a little deeper. And the number that a lot of times people are referring to is, what is the income need that I'm going to have during my retirement years? What does that number look like? And that's unique to each one of you. It's going to depend on so many variables that really only you know. This right here can help you at least give you an accurate idea on one of the numbers that need to go into your spending plan. When you take a look at how we run this report, it's all going to be based off of a one-page fact finder. It's front only, and it's going to ask for things like first and last name, just so you know that you're getting the right report back. Then it's gender, current age, retirement age, state, city, all the way down to the county. Believe it or not, the county is the most important piece here, because that is how the insurance products are going to be offered. It's going to be by county. That's also the pricing. Then the yes, no questions: high cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 1, type 2 diabetes, yes or no. And then we're looking at what you believe your income level will be during your retirement years. If you think it may fall between two, check them both. You'll get two different reports, but you will see the importance of trying to minimize your overall taxable income, your modified adjusted gross income during retirement, because it really does lower your healthcare costs considerably. And all you have to do is tell us how much information you want back in your report. The top one gives you everything I just talked about, all the different parts of Medicare and the usage. Then we remove the usage, and then we remove secondary coverage like a Medigap policy. Just tell us how much information you want to be able to give you the accurate information you need for your spending plan. Now, I know we went through a lot. The goal here of this entire presentation that I just gave is to help you understand that healthcare during retirement is going to have an expense. It's going to be one of the larger expenses that you're going to face. Left unchecked, it can become a risk to your retirement income plan. And to be able to help you understand what the cost is going to be and manage that risk, my nationwide team is here to help you. We have people that cover across the state. You can have one-on-one meetings with them in person. You can have meetings virtually with them. We have a whole host of different ways that you can reach out to them. They can help you run this report. They can help you understand many, many things about retirement and help make sure that you are on track. And so my ask to you all today is schedule some time to get to know them. They can help with really making sure you are on the right track. With that, I want to thank everybody very much for your time and attention. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I have the pleasure to introduce a friend of mine, Kim. She's on her way down. Kim, I'll try to get your slides up. Just keep me honest and make sure I'm bringing up the right slides for you. Is it here? There you go. There's a clicker.
All right, can you hear me? Good afternoon. You guys have heard a lot of information. I see some familiar faces. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kim Rumpel. I'm a senior retirement specialist with Hoosier START. I also have some other members of my team with us this afternoon. Is there an echo? A little bit. Better? A little bit? Okay, if it's a problem, somebody raise their hand, let me know. All right, so we're gonna go through a little bit of information this afternoon, just so that you have some additional resources. As you're gathering information for your retirement, obviously Hoosier START, deferred compensation, your 457, this is a huge piece of that. And as Dave indicated, we are all available to help you either virtually or in person, gather all of the information that you've heard today, among other things, and help you make sure that you're retirement ready. But I do wanna go through. Still getting an echo, yeah? Let's switch. Better? Okay, let's do that. So with that, I do want to go through a little bit of information. If you've ever heard me speak before, I'm going to touch on this briefly. You will always hear me talk about retirement in terms of how are you going to replace your income when you're no longer working, right? You've heard from InPRS this morning. There's obviously a Social Security component as well. I would offer to you that if we're going to meet either virtually or in person, I will ask you to gather that information before we meet. I'll ask you to gather your InPRS statement. I'll also ask you to gather your Social Security statement. Hoosier START, in my opinion, falls under the personal savings piece. So after we know what your Social Security might look like and when you think you might draw that, after we gather your InPRS information and add that to your profile and your situation, then we can obviously talk about Hoosier START in some more detail. And I'm going to go through a few things that I'd like to make sure that you're aware of as you start to approach retirement. But as we think about replacing income, we need to think about that in terms of how much income do you need when you stop working, right? So I'll also ask you to grab a pay stub because we're going to kind of work off of that. You've heard Jeremy and Dave talk about budgets and how that can impact, or in this case, a spending plan in your retirement. So those are things that will all be helpful when we're going to look at your specific situation. But let's dive into Hoosier START a little bit because I do want you to know some of the details. First and foremost, for those of you that may not know for sure, and it could be some of you, if you are not sure if you are participating in the Hoosier START deferred compensation plan, please check your pay stub. On your pay stub, you should see a line that says deferred compensation, or you might see a line that says 457 or 457 Roth. If you do not see a line on your pay stub that says deferred compensation or 457 Roth, you are likely not contributing to this particular plan, and we need to see you anyway. Okay. So that being said, if you are using your Hoosier START account or plan to, this is technically a 457B for those of you that are not aware of that. There is a primary difference between a 457B and other types of retirement accounts, 401ks, 403Bs. There are all different types of numbers out there that we can throw around. Yours is technically a 457B. And in the middle on the left, you will see access. That's the primary difference between what you have as a 457 and what I have as a private sector employee with a 401k. And that means that if you were to leave your employer before 59 and a half, you can access these dollars without penalty. Okay. Now, if you leave your employer and are moving on to another employment, you may decide to leave your Hoosier START account here, or you may decide to roll that over to your new employer plan. You can keep your Hoosier START account indefinitely. So even if you have left your employer or have retired from the state, you can continue to use your Hoosier START account indefinitely. You receive the same benefits, the same expenses, the same fees, et cetera, as a retired or terminated employee as you do as an active employee. Okay, none of that changes. Okay, I'm not going to go through these. We've talked about Social Security briefly. Dave had done a wonderful job of talking to you about healthcare costs and retirement, so we're going to skip that for just a moment. Automatic enrollment is also something that may or may not have applied to you. This is how you will know if you were enrolled. If you were hired after 2012, you should have been auto-enrolled with a few exceptions. So again, that's one of the reasons that you want to double check your pay stub. If you're a relatively new hire, you should have been auto-enrolled as well. Okay. There is a fee with Hoosier START. Your fee with Hoosier START currently is $51 a year. that is deducted directly from your Hoosier START account at $12.75 per quarter. If you are a new employee, the first 6 months of that is free. After that, you will see a $12.75 deduction from your Hoosier START account. Okay. And again, that is the same, even if you have left your employer and choose to leave your Hoosier START account with the state or with Nationwide. Okay. So a couple of things. We've got an awful lot of information this afternoon, so I do want to make sure that we leave time for my colleague to say a few words this afternoon as well. But I do want to water it down just a little bit. If you've ever heard me speak before, it is my personal opinion that there are 4 primary factors that are going to have an impact on your retirement success. How long you work, how much money you make while you work, how your dollars are invested, and how much you save. Okay, and we'll talk about those for just a moment. But within nation, so let me back up for just a moment. How long you work may or may not be within your control. Hopefully you all pick a retirement date. There's a big cake, a big party, bless you, and you have a big celebration and you go on into retirement comfortably, right? As I've been in this role the last 11 years, I've had more and more phone calls from folks who have been forced out of the workplace. Their health, their family's health. Dave touched on it earlier. It could be spouse, parents, yours, et cetera, right? So what I would offer to you is that I want you to have a plan, but I'm not 100% convinced that your retirement's going to be, how long you work is entirely up to you, right? How much you make, depending on what you do with your career, kind of not up to you, right? Sometimes dictated by the state and by your role, which leaves 2 factors: how your dollars are invested and how much money you save. Okay. You heard Jeremy from InPRS talk to you today about your investment options. I would implore you to make sure that you're checking your investments if you've not done so recently. Within your Hoosier START plan, you have several options. You can certainly do it yourself. We have a full list of target date funds, and we have a managed account service that you are welcome to use if you'd like. There is an additional charge for that, and that information is available either through one of us or on your website. But you are welcome to change in and out of these options anytime while you're with Hoosier START. But it is one of the primary factors that I believe will impact your long-term retirement success. So I'll echo what Jeremy said earlier, and that is make sure that you're checking your investments, not only in your InPRS defined contribution account, but within your Hoosier START account as well, along with any other outside retirement accounts that you might have, because we want to make sure that those are all invested appropriately for your situation and for your risk tolerance. Okay. We have some tools on our website that I would direct you to. The first one of which is the My Interactive Retirement Planner, which is in a box on the far left. If you have not used this nationwide tool, please register for your account if you have not already. And then you can go to Tools, which is in the top right-hand corner. And then the My Interactive Retirement Planner will allow you to add a Social Security estimate, or we can use one that we've come up with for you. We can add a pension benefit. We can add outside retirement accounts. And I would offer to you that if we meet one-on-one, this is the tool that we will use. So if you have questions or you're not sure how to walk through that, feel free to let us know that. We can do that in our appointment to make sure that those numbers reflect accurately your situation. Okay. We also have live and on-demand webinars. So as we do these in-person sessions, we also have a series of live webinars that we do, but we also have some on-demand webinars that you can go to. So if there's an additional topic that you're interested in learning more about, you can look through our library to see if there's one that applies to that topic. Again, if you have specific questions, I'm going to make sure that you have contact information before we're done today to make sure that you can reach out to one of us and we can either direct you in the right location or answer those questions directly for you. So let's talk just briefly about rollovers. If you have outside if you have outside retirement accounts that you want to make sure that you consolidate into Hoosier START, you are welcome to do that. That could be old 401ks, old 403bs, traditional IRAs. The only asterisk to that is Roth IRAs. If you own a Roth IRA outside of the state, the IRS prohibits us from moving that into Hoosier START, but all other accounts should be fair game. If you would like to do that, I don't have a magic wand. I can't make money move. But if you would like to consider doing so, you are welcome to shoot me an email. I have what I call beginning rollover instructions, and I can send those to you. Ultimately, it will initiate on your end, but we're happy to walk you through that process. I'm a fan of consolidating for a couple of reasons. One, you probably have fees on those other accounts, even if you don't see those. So you may save yourself some money by consolidating those accounts. If investments aren't your cup of tea and you're not sure what you're doing with your investments or need some guidance on that, having multiple accounts can complicate that. So I'm all about simplifying my life, any opportunity that I have. So if that is a benefit to you, you are welcome to do so. There is never a fee on our end to do that. If there's a fee on the other end, it's generally a small administrative expense. And in many cases, it's also zero. Okay. This rollover also applies to your DC or defined contribution account with InPRS. So Jeremy walked through with you some of the options that you have with your defined contribution account when you fill out your retirement paperwork. And one of the options is to roll over your defined contribution account to another retirement. That could include Hoosier START. It could also include a traditional IRA or other account that you might have. But the rollover, there is an unlimited amount. So we'll talk just briefly in a moment about your contribution limits. But if you are consolidating accounts, there is no cap on the amount that you can roll over into Hoosier START. Okay. This is the team that we have in place to help you. I'm in the middle in the green. Eric Sontag is with us this afternoon as well in the back of the room, and he helps me in the central part of the state. We also have folks situated throughout the state. We are only logistically situated this way to make sure that we provide the best service for all of our Indiana participants. But if you need one of us, again, we can meet virtually, or you're welcome to try to schedule some time in person. All of our email addresses are here. They're also on the website. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to Mark Gregoire, who is on the far left-hand side of the screen. We'll go through just a couple more things, and then I'll let Mark say a few words as well. Before we get done, I do want to share a couple of things because most of you or as I look out, I see a few that I know are thinking about retirement. So I do want to touch on a couple of things for 2023. Your contribution limits, if you are already not aware, for 2023, if you are under 50, are $22,500 this year. As we start to approach the end of the calendar year, the IRS will let us know what the 2024 limits are, and we will communicate that to you to the best of our ability, or you can always check the IRS website toward the end of the year for new contribution limits, okay? If you are over 50, the 2023 contribution limit is $30,000 this year. Okay, now those are the maximums, right? So obviously how much you're contributing can depend on your specific situation, and we're happy to offer you some guidance on that as well. But I want you to know what the limits are. The other one that I want to bring to your attention is something that the IRS calls special catch-up. And for those of you that are within 3 years of normal retirement eligibility through the InPRS benefits, you can contribute up to double the standard, which for 2023 makes it $45,000. So if you are within 3 years of normal retirement age and you're trying to fund your retirement at a much higher rate as you approach retirement, you could potentially go up to that $45,000. It's a 3 calendar year rule. And if you find yourself in that situation, we need to talk about that one-on-one. There's a process that we need to go through to do that. You cannot make that change online. It's a manual election. So I would want to talk that through with you before you make that decision. One of my colleagues or myself would be happy to do that. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, there were some questions that came through. Couple of things. One was, can I leave my Hoosier START account with Nationwide or with Hoosier START indefinitely? The answer is absolutely yes. I've been in this role 11 years now. I still get questions about that. Folks are under the impression that when they leave their employer or leave the state, they have to move their account. You do not have to do that. It's my opinion that there will be some advisors that will obviously like to have those dollars, and you are certainly welcome to entertain them if they have products and services that you're interested in, but you are never required to move these dollars. You can keep it indefinitely. Okay. We talked about contribution limits, which was one of the questions as well. We talked about rolling over other accounts. Again, if you have those, you might let me know what those look like, or one of my colleagues. We can talk you through the logistics of doing so and whether or not you may want to consider consolidating. Okay. All right. Questions from the audience? Crickets. Okay. I'd like to introduce Mark Gregoire. I usually do not have the pleasure of introducing him in person, but Mark's become a dear friend and a dear colleague of mine as we've transitioned to Nationwide, and he is a personal retirement consultant for Nationwide. He is at your disposal. Just briefly, one of the other questions that came through on the initial registrations was, how do I go about finding a financial advisor? So if you're the person that asked that question, I will encourage you as a retirement specialist for Nationwide to take full advantage of all of the resources that you have through the state. before you start seeking a financial advisor. You are welcome to do so, and we would never prohibit you from doing that. We would encourage you to do that if that's appropriate. But Mark is an excellent resource, and I'll let him share with you what he may be able to help you with. And then if you have any other questions, we will be at the back table in the atrium, and more than happy to answer questions this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. How do you advance this? Thank you very much. My name is Mark Gregoire. As Kim said, I am the personal retirement consultant for the Hoosier START plan. And I'm trying to find where my slides are. And Kevin, anyone? Come pull these up. But real quick, I'm going to take less than 5 minutes. This is more of an introduction. Real quick, I know it's no fun being the last speaker up here. Again, what I do is Nationwide does a great job of providing all these tools and resources and information to you to try and plan out your retirement. My role is to provide you with a more holistic type of an analysis to show you what your retirement might look like based on certain assumptions. I have nothing to sell you. This is there's no cost for this service. But what I am going to do for you, if you're interested, if you're close to retirement or just want to see what your cash flow is going to look like in retirement, that's what I'm going to do for you. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to ask you to fill out some information. We're going to make some assumptions. We're going to look at all sources of income, both retirement, employer-sponsored plans, IRAs, private plans, things like that. We're going to anticipate expenses in retirement. We're going to try and be realistic about this. It's going to force you to think about a few things that you may not have thought about before. We're going to also look at your goals in retirement with regard to what needs to be funded and what doesn't. And then at the end, I'm going to distill it all down so to give you a clear picture year by year of what your cash flow is going to look like from all these different sources of coming in, going out, and whether you're going to be comfortable or not. I don't typically find people that aren't in this plan, but it gives you a great idea of what to look at. So if you're interested in doing something like that, did we find them? There we go. Again, real quick, what we're going to look at is it's the questionnaire that I'm going to give you is going to ask you to look at things like cash flow, asset allocation. How do you want your investments allocated once you do retire? Taxes have a large impact on, once you retire. We're going to show you that. We're going to show you even if you have, like most people do, employer-sponsored plans, private plans, IRAs. We're going to show you what we call a withdrawal strategy. Where do I take my money from first out of these different types of accounts to minimize my tax exposure while I'm in retirement? We're also going to take a look at what Dave talked about, the healthcare assessment. We're going to plug a realistic number into that so that you can, have a realistic, idea of what healthcare is going to cost you in retirement. And we're going to look at other major expenses, long-term care, for example. I'm sure you've heard the statistics before. 70% of us are going to need some type of long-term care. Only 14% of us statistically right now have any type of long-term care plan or insurance for doing that. So we'll plug those types of things in. It's a very painless process. Please, if you can flick the next one there. We're going to talk, we want to map out your retirement. So these are the 3 forms that I'm going to send you. It's a retirement planning survey. There's an asset allocation survey and a Social Security fact finder. So basically, I'm going to try and take all the tools that you've heard about today, the healthcare, the Social Security, and everything else you want to put on this fact finder from me, and then give you a nice, clean report that'll show you year by year out to your life expectancy, how your cash is going to flow. And it's again, it's a very painful process. Any questions about that? Okay. And please feel free to schedule time with me. You can email me and jump on my calendar. You can call, whatever you want to do. I'll answer any questions you have about retirement. We can talk about any type of retirement subject you'd like, but I'm available to you going forward. And thank you for participating today. And if you have any questions, I'll remain after. Is that it? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. That concludes our presentation. If you have any further questions, both the InPRS team and our Hoosier START team is out in the hallway. You can get more contact information from us if questions pop up in the future. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.